reclaiming our credibility and moral authority, much of which has been lost. That's why we moved quickly to begin restoring American engagement internationally and earn back our leadership position, to catalyze global action on shared challenges. On day one, I signed the paperwork to rejoin the Paris Climate Agreement. America must lead in the face of this existential threat.
So that's how we reclaim America's moral authority. We jump on this issue once again, picking up where the Obama administration left off on global warming. Well, join me now to talk about this, about whether or not America actually left the global stage, as President Biden said in his speech, is the former Secretary of State, my good friend, Mike Pompeo. Mike, welcome back to the program.
Tony, it's great to be with you. Thanks for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
Well, Mr. Former Secretary, let me just say thank you for the work that you did. You came on many times to talk about it. I have to think that you found some of the president's remarks shocking, as if he had been in a closet for the last 4 years.
You know, it's remarkable. And look, I'm happy to give him the benefit of the doubt for a bit here. But the world is not the world he described. And it's not okay to pick just the fantasy piece that you wish it were. You have to deal with the reality. And so when you hear him talk about things like the Paris Climate Accord, look, most of these countries have been in the Paris Climate Accords for these last 4 years. We left it under President Trump. Well, what did the world get for that? They got a Chinese Communist Party that continues to emit more pollution than any other country in the world, not even coming close to its commitments. These commitments are ephemeral. They're voluntary. No country is going to destroy its economy for the purpose of executing against the Paris Climate Accords. The United States shouldn't do that. Shouldn't do that either. That's what President Trump, frankly, recognized. It's why we did good work. We actually had years where we reduced CO2 emissions in the United States at a higher rate than any other country, and we're proud of that. It was because of innovation, technology, economic improvement, incentive systems, all the things we know in America, Tony. That's the right approach. It's the American approach, and it's one that I hope that President Biden and his team will come to understand as well. I'm not maybe be giving them too much of a benefit of the doubt, but they're just getting started, and I want to see how they do.
Well, I certainly wish him success, and I will be very candid. I prayed for you nearly every day, and I prayed for President Trump, and I'm praying for President Biden because
yes, sir, of course.
We're instructed to in Scripture, but also I want him to do well, because if he does well in terms of what's best for America, we all benefit. And so I do want him to make the right decisions, and I'm hoping that there will still be some good people around to give him good advice. I want to go back to a clip I played at the very beginning of the program, clip number one, because words have meaning, and this is going to require some interpretation because, let's just play the clip. Clip number one.
America is back. America is back. Diplomacy is back at the center of our foreign policy.
Biden said America is back. Did America go somewhere?
Tony, I don't know what he was referring to there precisely. Where we went was to lead from the front, not from the rear. It was a leadership, a foreign policy leadership that understood America first was the right approach. We got it right here in America. Good things would happen all across the world, and you can see the results of that. Right? Do you want to go back to the JCPOA with Iran on the march and having more and more money and wealth, or do you like the fact that where we were was we made them poorer, weaker, less capable of fomenting terror around the world, protected our friend and ally Israel, the rightful homeland of the Jewish people. We built out relationships in the region of an enormous coalition of Gulf states and Israel, all of whom understood the threat from Iran. I don't want to go back to where we were 4.5 years ago. I don't think we want to go back to a policy where if the Chinese Communist Party said go left, we went left.
Right.
They said go right, we went right. We appeased them for an awfully long time. And President Trump didn't do that. Our team didn't do that. And Americans are safer and more secure as a result of that.
So this statement requires interpretation. What he probably meant was America is at the back, leading from behind, like they did during the Obama administration.
It could be. I saw today that they were going to rejoin the Human Rights Council at the United Nations. I mean, Tony, you know this institution. It is fundamentally anti-Semitic.
Yes.
It is fundamentally led by countries that have the worst human rights records anywhere in the world. We said, no, we're not going to participate in that. That's unreformable, is irredeemable, and we left. They've now gone back to that. I just think those things are an enormous mistake. I wish it was a real human rights council, too, but you can't conduct foreign policy based on what you wish was happening. You have to accept facts and reality and deal with those.
Well, in America's foreign policy under the Trump administration was America first, which I don't think we need to make an apology for. And that maybe that's called nationalism, but I actually think it's good to be an American. That's why people want to come here. But there's such a contrast between priorities. You and I talked about this a number of times, Mike, when you were secretary, about the priority of international religious freedom. In fact, just today I had a commission meeting where I still serve as vice chair of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom. But to contrast that with the priorities of this administration shows the difference of, I guess I should say, the consequences of election. I'm going to play another clip. Clip number 3 of what he talked about as the example America wants to set.
So with your help, the United States will again lead, not just by the example of our power, but the power of our example. That's why my administration has already taken the important step to live our domestic values at home, our democratic values at home. Within hours of taking office, I signed an executive order overturning the hateful, discriminatory Muslim ban, reversed the ban on transgender individuals serving in our military.
He talks about this Muslim ban. That was protecting America from those coming to this country that were coming from countries that had a track record of attacking America.
Tony, we could dissect that for a long time. Indeed, what President Trump did was aim to keep Americans safe, and said till it's the case that we can figure out who's coming in from these countries, and that America can know that who's coming into the country into our country from those places doesn't pose a threat to the American people. We're not going to permit that to happen again. This is fact-based, common sense foreign policy. It makes enormous sense to open the floodgates when you don't have the systems and processes in place to keep the American people safe, to protect American jobs. All the things would go with a nation that is sovereign and free. If you get that wrong, Tony, there's no international system, there's no multilateral organization that can fix it.
I've got one more clip I want to play because you brought it up, fact-based, and you make these decisions based upon guiding principles of America first, what is best in our foreign policy. But apparently President Biden takes issue with how the previous administration approaches. Play clip number 4.
We've restored our commitment to science and to create policies grounded in facts and evidence. I suspect Ben Franklin would approve.
We can have different opinions, but we're supposed to operate off the same facts.
Well, I think he's just misread fundamentally what it was that I was trying to do as a Secretary of State. I'll give a good example from just the last couple of days. No one disputes that the Houthi rebels in Yemen are terrorists, that they threaten America, that they shout death to Israel, that their motto convokes the very idea that the United States should not exist, that they've launched missiles into Saudi Arabia, that they kill civilians. These are terrorists. And to lift the designation of them as such is a fantasy. It is a wishing something weren't so. And that presents risk. It presents risk to the relationships in the Middle East. It presents risk to Israel. It presents risk to the people of the United States. Just need to have a set of foreign policies that they were elected to run on. I understand they're going to pick different ones than we did, and that indeed their priorities will be different.
Right.
But you have to ground it in history and facts and our nation's founding. And if you do that, then you're entitled to your own view of the right course of action.
But, Mr. Former Secretary, we live in such a volatile and dangerous world. You really don't get redos on some of these things because if we make America or our allies more vulnerable, you can't go back and undo that. Are there concerns that you have right now about the direction that this administration is going that could create vulnerabilities for America?
Well, I hope they get it right. I hope they honor. They said the right thing. I take them as people who are endeavoring to get it right to protect the American people. But if you allow the policies to go back into place, the ones that were in place under President Obama and Vice President Biden, with respect to China, with respect to Iran, with respect to our borders, all the things that the Trump administration did to keep the American people safe, you're in fact increasing risk for the American people. That has economic risk, it has risk to our health, as we've seen from this virus, all the things that the American people deserve when we raise our right hand to protect and defend the United States Constitution. I hope that this administration gets those right. I'm rooting for them.
Mike Pompeo, I know you have to go catch a flight. One final question for you. It's actually a question I asked you when we were meeting on January the 6th. We were in a meeting when all of the stuff happened at the Capitol. Didn't find out until after we came out of that meeting. But I asked you, based upon your understanding of the world, having served as Secretary of State, CIA Director, Member of Congress, for our listeners all across America, mostly believers, what do we need to be praying about right now as we look out across not only the landscape of America, but around the world?
Well, Tony, as you said, we should all pray for our leaders across the world. But for America, we need to pray that people continue to do the things that have made this nation so special, right? We worked hard. We take care and raise our families. We involve ourselves in our communities, our religious communities, and our communities that do good projects and good works all across America. If America can restore those values, those traditional set of values, the central understandings that our founders had about this nation, we will continue to be the most exceptional nation in the history of civilization.
And we need to work toward that end. Mike Pompeo, as always, thanks so much for joining us. And again, appreciate your work as both Secretary of State, the Director of the CIA, and as, of course, as a member of Congress.
Tony, thank you, sir. So long.
All right. Take care. Talk to you soon. Mike Pompeo, former Secretary of State, I forgot to mention, also as a tank commander in the United States Army.